now, Congressman Michael Burgess, Republican from Texas, whose statement today in the president's executive actions on gun control reads in part, quote, Americans deserve a leader who does not regard the Constitution as a suggestion for the model on which our government should exist. Congressman, am I right in understanding you believe the move here is unconstitutional because of the separation of powers, not because it violates the Second Amendment? Or do you think it violates the Second Amendment as well?
Well, as you'll recall, I prefaced my argument on this was an Article 1, Article 2 issue. Article 1 governing, dealing with the Congress, we have the power to make the laws. The president, as the chief executive, executor of those laws, but he's not the maker of those laws. That, of course, is what the state that exists in a monarchy, and we specifically said we didn't want to do that.
Right, but there's all sorts of executive actions that every president takes all the time, right? Routinely, President George W. Bush took a whole bunch of them, in fact, more than President Obama, if I'm not mistaken. Something like having sufficient staff to staff the background check hotline 24 hours. You think that's an abrogation of the Constitution?
Well, look, one of the things that I think is probably frustrating to people when they look at the administration's actions in this regard, well, number one, in the first 2 years of President Obama's administration, there was virtually nothing that the Republicans could stop. So if this was one of the things that was of the highest importance to him, this would have basically taken a week out of his first 2 years of his first term. So why that did not happen, I cannot posit a reason. But I will tell you this.
Probably the greatest financial crisis in 80 years, but continue.
But the other aspect is we don't even have a director of the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms.
Yes, so because Republicans have been blocking him in the Senate.
No, that is actually not true. It's because of the resignations of the previous directors, and I don't know that the president can find anyone who wants the job. So I would recommend to the president that he fill that position first.
Understandably. But let me
the advice and consent of the Senate is there for a reason as well.
I want to zero in here, though, like, just to get specific for a moment. I mean, 200 more staffers to staff this hotline 24 hours, right? Is that an abrogation of the Constitution? Is that essentially a incursion upon the constitutional prerogative of the Congress?
Well, not of the Congress, and the Congress would obviously have to be the ones to authorize and appropriate those funds to hire those individuals. So, no, that would not be an abrogation under Article 2.
Okay. Let me ask you this. You come from a state that has just inaugurated this year a fairly expansive open carry legislation. There was a long gun open carry in Texas. There's now handgun open carry. There's also open carry, if I'm not mistaken, in the Texas Capitol right now, in Austin. Do you think that would be a good idea in the U.S. Capitol? I mean, my understanding is advocates of guns think they actually make spaces safer. Should we get rid of the metal detectors and have people with guns in the Capitol?
Well, it's certainly a discussion we can have. I would just point out that although Texas is now an open carry state, it was one of the few states that did not have an open carry provision. And I mean, that goes back to the time of Reconstruction.
I'm curious.
So is it appropriate that Texas has moved forward with this? I think so.
But I'm curious, just personally, you go to work in that building every day. Would you, Congressman Michael Burgess, feel safer in that building if they got rid of the metal detectors and they let people just carry their sidearms into Congress?
I don't know that it would make a material difference to me. The fact of the matter remains, when I go into any public venue, yeah, you don't know what you're getting into, but
so you would support that.
In general, do I feel safe when I go into public venues where there are not metal detectors? The answer is, of course, I do.
But you would support that in Congress. You would support people bringing weapons into the Capitol.
Well, look, I think it all can be part of the discussion, and if that's the direction that people want to go, I think it's something that deserves to be heard. But the bigger question here today is, Chris, I mean, the president put forward these proposals. It's not really clear. I mean, on the gun show loophole, do you really understand what he's talking about? There's no prohibition on the number, or there's no limitation on the number that are sold or the frequency of their sales. It's only if you have a business card. I mean, what does that even mean when he says now he's closed the gun show loophole? I don't think a great many people really know what the president was talking about with that.
I think it's going to work its way through the regulatory. It'll be interesting to see if legislation is taken up, and that will be hashed out as well. Congressman Michael Burgess of Texas.